Hi, Adam here at Twinkl, and I'm with author Louise Gooding, and we're going to be talking about brains. Hi, Louise.
Hi everyone, and hi Adam. Obviously, everyone first, then you.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'll manage. So I couldn't resist asking this question. So straight in, what is the most interesting fact about the brain?
Do you know what? When we're writing this, there's so many facts that it's really difficult to choose one. But like the one thing I like, which is not really necessarily a fact about the brain, it's kind of a quote, but that whole thing of like soaking up information like a sponge. I don't know if you've read the book yet. When you the first page, I look at like the biodiversity in brains as well. And like so often we're like, oh, they've soaked that information up like a sponge, but sponges don't have brains. So like I don't know if that's a compliment or not a. And I was like, it's one of those things, it doesn't make any sense. So I love that as like, I love wordplay and I love talking about stuff. So for me, I loved finding out that sponges don't have any, like they just have a like a system of nerves. They don't have a brain. So how can you soak up information like a sponge? You can't. So anyways, that was one of my weirdly one of my favorite facts because I like the twist on that. But I just like the fact that no one brain's the same. That's the most like the biggest thing, which I think came out through really clearly when I was writing this book. Like no matter what you dived into, it was very, very clear that they're just as unique as snowflakes. And that's really cool to think that your brain is your brain and there'll only be ever your brain.
So obviously, there's a reason we're talking about brains. You wrote a book called Wonderfully Wired Brains that talks a lot about how the brain works and neurodiversity. What inspired you to write it?
So I think for me, when I was looking, I mean, when I got diagnosed and my kids got diagnosed, I was looking for books that really broke down like just neurodiversity as a topic. Because, you know, there's loads of amazing resources online, but there was no one place to find the information I needed or in a way that was like easily digestible because, you know, you'd pick up a book, whether it was for an adult or for kids, and it was still full of like facts and data. And I was just like, I'm falling asleep here. Like, I can't relate to this. It's chunky text. And it's just too heavy. There's nothing really explaining why, you know, it says, oh, we have, you know, these brains and that brain, but why? And that was why I'm a researcher, obviously, through and through. I always have questions, and I'm like, but why is it doing that? What's going on? What's the like behind all that? And you know, I found that I started already writing down notes, and I sent it to my agent and said, look, I've got this idea, like, because I want to look into this. I'm finding it fascinating, and I'm really lucky that she looked and was like, oh my goodness, this is the way you're doing it is really fun because you're writing probably from a child. Sort of from a child's level because I get really excited about facts. Like apparently that excitement comes through because I'm like, oh, look at this, like leeches have 32 brains, how cool is that?
One thing I noticed about doing all that research, you dispel a lot of myths. So the one that really stuck out to me, because I didn't realize this wasn't true, that the left side of your brain isn't the creative side and the right side of your brain isn't the logical side. I had no idea that was a myth. Was there a myth that really surprised you?
I like, obviously, because I'm an ADHD, so I love dispelling the whole ADHD as a new thing. Like, I love being able to just like say, well, actually, we found evidence of someone talking about, I think they called it I'm just going to look up now, lack of attention disorder was recorded in like a medical text in like 1775 by a German philosopher and physician. I think Malquer Adam Weichard was his name. So like, people were talking about people having a lack of attention in 1775, but we don't have the education and the resources available for us to study it. So, you know, it doesn't, just because we have that now and we understand more doesn't mean it's a new thing, because it's probably been around for a long, long time, as this suggests. And that was for me, just being able to say, yeah, but someone was looking at this in 1775. So, you know, we can't assume anything. We can't just say, oh, you know, it's a new thing, and it's, you know, that this is such a big topic as well at the moment in the media with people you know, questioning, you know, ADHD and why so many people are getting diagnosed. Well, it's because we know more, we have access to more information and better resources to diagnose. So that's the myth that I loved being able to shout and say, no, it's not new.
What's your view on current attitudes about the way we learn, and do you think it's going in the right direction?
So it's a bit of a special one for me on this one, because the way we learn, I think, is still a bit one track way. I know we have different, differentiated learning resources, but I mean, I'm not an educator. I will speak from my personal experience as a student and as a mother, but I really struggled with, I said to you before, like my working memory. So I think, especially in the UK learning system, it's all based on memory recall. It's lots of exams. Kids have sat their SATs exams. We do GCSEs. That's where I failed. I left school assuming I felt intelligent. I felt like I could prove my intelligence when I got to do projects, presentations, and that work that was graded always got really great marks. But the core base of a lot of our education system is based on being able to sit in an exam and have memory recall. And if you have, like myself, which is my working memory is awful. I failed. I went from being an A-star student down to a D because I just could not do exams. So I do think that, as we understand more about neurodiversity and the differences of our brains, it would be really good to have more options and be aware of those, the tools needed, or that not every child can sit an exam. But I mean, that's going to be a whole, to say that it's like a whole overriding everything we do would have a whole new system. But, it's really worth bearing in mind that some children, and, as adults as well, the way we can show our intelligence is, again, it's such a difference in scale. You can't just put an exam in front of someone and say, this will show whether you're clever or not. Like, if I'd have gone from what I know at school, maybe would I have been a writer? Would I have thought I'd be a writer? Possibly not. But I'm now using the skills I had at school and felt clever and confident with. And I'm doing that with research and writing books. But at a time, I was scared and thinking I wouldn't be able to access this world because all my exams said I couldn't. But I could if you looked at all the other stuff.
What would you advise to educators if they wanted to develop their strategies for teaching about neurodiversity and also talking about it?
I think getting in resources. I mean, there are so many amazing organizations that are offering, like, free resources, printable resources. We had Neurodiversity Celebration Week. There are, there's people like me who I do school workshops. There's Abigail Balfe, Kate Foster. These are other amazing, Elle McNichol. Everyone knows she's an amazing author. There's so many amazing authors offering workshops and talks, and, having the representation at your school, whether it's through books and just being able to, integrate it into your system and having it available. If you've got a book in the library and a kid's going, well, I'm feeling different, well, I'm not sure, having something like, Wonderfully Wired Brains, and obviously I will shout Abigail Balfe's book because I love it, but, like a different sort of normal. These are great resources for kids just to be able to, either, we say windows and mirrors, like you can have a look into someone else's world or see yourself reflected.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for speaking with me today about brains, no less, and your book, Wonderfully Wired Brains. If people want to learn more about what you do, where can they find you?
So my website, www.louisegooding.com. There's loads of information on there. I'm updating it currently because I need to put lots of resources. I've got some resources coming from DK for that, so you can do some sort of read along and have some classroom resources. And for my other two books, you can find on there as well, which also have a bit of a brain theme. I seem to like brains at the moment, but yeah, if you have a look on my website, you can find me there. And always reach out as well. I'm always happy to talk to people. I get teachers emailing me, and I'm always happy to respond and say hello.